Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's midday Western U.S. regional forecast video brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. Well, most of the story that we're going to be talking about in terms of how weather will be playing out over the next 5 to 10 days is told right here. This is the flow of the jet stream, and right now we are featuring this. This is called a high over low pattern. So the ridge is sitting here and the trough is sitting there. Whenever we see a pattern like this is generally a very dry pattern for much of the west coast United States. But there's another thing to be paying attention to here. In the upper levels of the atmosphere, there is a trough that is sitting right up in this area. And as the air flows around that trough, it will be parts of Montana, parts of the western United States, but the northwestern United States is really going to be dealing with some pretty adverse weather as we move forward. But I think most of it's going to be centered on the eastern side of the Rocky Mountains. This flow pattern, as it evolves, well, will move very slowly. That's what a blocked flow pattern does, where you have this high over low pattern like this. And we'll slowly see this trough throughout the weekend move over towards Southern California, such that early next week we could get some cloud cover and locations some wetter conditions. But overall, this pattern, while it is a drier one from the west, it is absolutely soaking wet for much of us in the eastern part of the United States. We have some major flood problems going on there. So let me just put it all together for you. You're looking at a map looking at the next 10 days of total accumulated precipitation. And this comes from the National Blended Model, which includes the European model, the GFS, it includes all of the models we run at NCEP. I just want to show you one thing. Here's where we see that trough finally coming on shore here, possibly bringing in, of course, some cloud cover for parts of middle and southern California, but the chances for some precipitation at higher elevation and possibly some lighter rainfall in the valleys at times. It does move into parts of Nevada, Utah, into the Four Corner states, and we will be seeing quite a bit of snow being picked up here in the Rocky Mountains. But because of the colder air that's still coming in on this side of things, because remember that high over low pattern is doing this, we got that cold air coming in, some of what you see up here in Montana will be falling in the form of snow. Same thing for Wyoming, and we might even be bringing in some front range snow as well. But overall, look at that. Much of Oregon, Washington, Idaho, California, you've got a very dry next 10 days as we've kind of seen the end of our wet season really kind of shaping up here. Just to keep you aware of a few things. We are expecting even more flooding, Texas, Arkansas, lower Mississippi. Historic flooding is already happening on the Mississippi River between Illinois, Iowa, and Missouri. When I say historic, just to let you know, we're breaking records set in 1993, and that was the year of the Great Mississippi Flood. So right now, just to keep you up to date on this, barge traffic on the Mississippi for almost the whole length of it here has been slowed or stopped in places. And that's important because we think about how we're moving goods across the country because it impacts the west and the northwest. I need you to know that as we progress through this forecast. What about temperatures as we kind of finish this big picture here? We can really see the presence of that upper level trough in central Canada, keeping much of Montana cool. But look at this. We're going to see much of the west and Pacific Northwest staying warm. The only cooler weather you have is when that little trough I mentioned to you there sitting and spinning out in the open Pacific finally moves on shore. Maybe, let me take that color off there, maybe some cooler weather down here, just slightly cooler than average, still very warm. When we progress to the 6 to 10 day forecast, look at the cold finally getting dislodged in the central United States. But with that ridge that's going to occupy much of the Pacific Northwest, we're going to continue to accumulate the growing degree day units, the heat units at a faster clip. We're going to be seeing here drier conditions overall, but the flow pattern again is doing that, remember? And this trough is going to keep part of the Four Corner states in Southern California in the 6 to 10 day time period, maybe slightly cooler than average. But this isn't cold by any stretch of the imagination. So the big story is here, the west is really warm and it's going to be dry as we progress forward. Taking a look at the next 15 days in terms of precipitation anomalies. Again, we have that little shortwave out here that's going to slowly move like this. That's why you see the wetter bias in through this area. But because that flow pattern's doing something like this, look, the northwest United States, we got a drier pattern. Systems do slide down like this, as we just highlighted, keeping parts of Montana wet. And it is certainly extremely wet across a big section of the middle and eastern part of the United States. So I want to keep you aware of those bigger picture things as we progress now into some of the details. We had released yesterday the new drought monitor. We basically saw no change, okay? No change really across much of the country, which means we're still dealing with some drier conditions here in the longer term in parts of Washington, northern Idaho, and parts of the Rocky Mountains there in Montana. We've been discussing how California is out of it, most of Oregon is out of it, but when we think about Washington, this is a great website to go check out. Pause the video, you can go to this usgs.gov Center's Water Dashboard. That's a good one. And what it does is it shows you all of the locations locations in any Pacific Northwest state, any Western United States where we have where we have water gauges in our rivers, and you can see how the nearby stream flows compare to average. And if there's a place where things are troubling, it is right now in parts of Washington, where we do see, especially in Western Washington here, some of the stream flows are showing in that below average kind of area. So I just want you to keep an eye on this with me as we progress. Overall, the mountain snowpack is incredible for this time of year throughout much of the Intermountain West. And as I've shown you in the past, I'll just give you the brand new update here. Our reservoir levels throughout the state of California are at some of the best levels I've seen them at, honestly, since I started doing weather forecasting. Because of that, we can take a look at what's happened here with our Vegetative Health Index. So this is a satellite-derived product. We can just compare a year ago, that's over here on the right, to what we currently have, which is over here on the left. And overall, the more of these colors you see, the healthier the crop is appearing from space. We know we've had some big spring blooms early in parts of California, but even up into Washington, Oregon, we're seeing more of these colors, more of these cooler colors showing up, which is a good sign when we compare it to a year ago. So I just want to kind of give you that year-on-year comparison as we can view things from satellite. Okay, what's this pattern doing? Well, look, here's that high over low. Here's the big ridge that's sitting over Greenland and that trough I mentioned that keeps sneaking the colder air down. Now, what we're going to watch as we play this forward is that first thing we're going to deal with is the trough finally getting on shore after the weekend into Southern California early next week. But still, see the ridge over trough low, that high over low flow that keeps much of the Pacific Northwest dry. Now, we in the middle part of the country are fearing this because as this big ridge builds here and this trough forms down here and there's another ridge over the southeast, this is a pattern, and I've been saying this for a while now, but storm chasers love it. Farmers hate it. The midsection of the country is going to be under the gun again for more rainfall. So you're going to continue to see those problems. Meanwhile, Pacific Northwest, you're going to enjoy the warmth from this ridge. We need to collect some growing degree day units. We need these heat units now. So this will be good for our crops in the Northwest here as we press forward. Now, what do we see? We're going to see that all the way through the 9th, 10th, 11th, we're not getting rid of this pattern. And overall, we feature this broader trough here with a ridge over the northwest. So that means the drier, warmer pattern we're in looks to have some legs on it. It's going to last for a little while. As we progress out to mid-month, we do see a bit of a shift. And the shift that I'm seeing here is that it appears as though the longer-range models want to put a trough here south of the Gulf, or in the Gulf of Alaska, but south of the Aleutian Islands, and a ridge that's somewhere here just north and west of Hawaii. And that tends to get the flow going pretty quickly across the United States, which may mean we may have to watch later on in the end of May. Now, this is a long-range forecast, but later on at the end of May, we may actually go back into a little bit wetter pattern. I'll keep a close eye on it, though, for you. I don't have a lot of confidence in that, but we'll keep a close eye on to see what that means for us as we progress toward the end of the month. If we just take a look at the near term, again, for California, really for the whole West Coast, this is about the only thing we're worried about here. As I click play, watch that cutoff low. There it is. Finally, by the time we get into early next week, make its way. But this is just widely scattered showers along the coast. Nothing in the valley here, and maybe some precip that gets up into the higher elevation in the Sierra Nevadas. But San Joaquin, Sacramento Valley, you're not going to be getting much out of this. It'll only be in the mountains surrounding LA that we pick up some precip out of this little shortwave that comes through, and just some general cloud cover. But look at this. I hate to say it, but with the colder air that's in Montana, as these next few systems slide through, look at this one coming in on Monday morning. Yeah, that's got the chance to bring in some snow. And then we're watching that deeper trough develop here by the time we get to the 9th of May, and that's why you just see the whole area looking wet. It's just a trough in there, flow going over the mountains, plenty of lift in the atmosphere. It's just set up to make precip, and we're going to see that and picking up even more snow at those higher elevations, which we would want this time of year. If we can get any extra, we'll take it. As we progress on out, though, I think what I should just do is show you this map. This map takes you all the way out over the next 180 hours. So we're looking at the next week here. And what do we see? We see snow in Montana. This is the probability of picking up another inch of snow here. And when we start to see that, we know the cold air is in place. But definitely packing it into the mountains as we finish up this season. So again, when we look over the next 7 to 10 days, it's a drier pattern. But we will be watching for changes in the Pacific Ocean that may suggest we get pushing more towards some wetter conditions as we move through the middle of the month. But again, that's our dry season. So we're talking about wet compared to average. I'll have a brand new update for you about this multiple times next week. week to see what we're looking out for, okay? With that, I'm going to wrap up this forecast video. We at Nutrien Ag Solutions hope you look forward to this next ag forecast each day of the week that come out next week. Just head to my.nutrienagsolutions.com to check them out. Hope you all have a great week, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you.